St. Boniface Day raid. It is the hallowed day of St. Boniface. Llanddwyn ap Llanddwyn and his band of dreadful Welsh raiders are about to launch their attack upon the village of Wigford. Thane Edgar and his Saxon villagers have been taken somewhat by surprise, having only just emerged from the St. Boniface's Day service at the Church of the Immaculate Conception. We find the villagers scattered at 3 different locations around the village. When the alarm sounded, Brother Acrimonious was in the vestibule, tinkering with his chalice. Emerging nervously through the great south door, he found Wulfhere and a number of his flock, armed and ready to repel the invaders. Across the road, the vigorous donkey has recently received a supply of the excellent Oldie Scrotum ale. And the mistress of the house, Salome, is feeling anxious, lest this first-rate brew should end up in the hands of the loutish Welshman. Salome, Delilah and Sixtine, their veteran and much beloved potman, have armed themselves ready for action. Meanwhile, back at Edgar's longhouse, the Thane has gathered yet more villagers to defend the grain store from the Welshmen. With winter just around the corner, the loss of the laboriously harvested grain would spell disaster for the people of Wigford. Approaching the village, on the road from the west, Llanddwyn, Brother Bedwetter and just 2 warriors, have been separated from the rest of their warband. To the north of Llanddwyn's party, yet more Welshmen, led by I'll Have a Puddin', make their way into the village. And to the south, a small party approach the village to the rear of the vigorous donkey. The first initiative role goes decisively to Edgar and the Saxon villagers. Realizing the danger Thane Edgar is in, Brother Acrimonious leaves Wulfhere to defend the church, and hurries down the road to join the defenders of the grain store at the longhouse. Initially, Wulfhere is a little confused and is uncertain about what to command his warriors to do. A little ladylike advice from Salome soon clarifies Wulfhere's thinking, and the youngster begins to formulate a plan. Over at the longhouse, Thane Edgar organizes his men and women to hold the wall of the enclosure to prevent the raiders from pillaging the grain store. Moving swiftly, I'll Have leads his warriors over the wattle fence and onwards to attack the defenders of the grain store. While Llanddwyn, inspired by the melodic incantations of Brother Bedwetter, makes a dash along the road into the village, hoping to reach the junction and prevent the Saxons from combining their divided forces. And over on the southern edge of the village, Felling furtively leads his little group of spearmen, unnoticed behind the vigorous donkey. The thirsty Welshmen have caught sight of the stacked barrels of ale outside the alehouse and have determined to slake their thirst, before joining up with their comrades over at the far side of the village. And with that, the first turn of the game draws to a close. The Welsh warband are in a difficult position, being outnumbered, and spread across the entire length of the village in 3 separate groups. The Saxons, on the other hand, are beginning to bring their forces together and could use their superior numbers to overwhelm the raiders. For turn 2, the Welsh get the initiative, by the smallest of margins. I'll Have continues to advance towards the longhouse stockade and the coveted prize of the grain store. Win ap prize, the lone archer in the Welsh warband, slips behind a wattle fence and takes up a position to fire his trusty arrows into the Saxons, defending the stockade. And, in the center of the village, Flamduin, brother Bedwetter and a lone spearman continue to advance, leaving their slinger in a position where he can shoot into Wulfhere's men near the vigorous donkey. The three cunning Welshmen continue to sneak their way behind the alehouse, and prepare to launch their attack upon Salome. Unfortunately for them, however, just at the critical moment of their wily approach, Sixtine, with his dangerous flail flailing, takes cover in the alehouse yard, and spots the advancing Welshman. "Fairlick, Fairlick," he cries. "Wieldrit, Wieldrit," and the game is up for the devious Welshman. Salome and her sister hear the cry of alarm and rush to Sixtine's aid. Worse still for the Welsh, Wulfhere has left behind an archer to help guard the tavern, and he is quickly into his work, loosing an arrow towards them. Wulfhere and his villagers have quickly made their way to intercept Flamduin, who now finds himself outnumbered. Although, his slinger attempts to bring down a Saxon. The shot, however, misses its mark and Flamduin is beginning to regret his hurried and uncoordinated attack. Turn 2 has been another period of movement and maneuver, with the Welsh raiders allowing themselves to be drawn further into the Saxon web. Although the villagers are out-armed and out-armored, Flamduin's failure to concentrate his forces is making success look less and less likely. Turn 3 begins with the Saxons winning the initiative roll. With the two forces now so close, winning this roll could give Edgar's forces a huge advantage, as it will be they who get to launch those all-important charges. The first of those charges sees Wulfhere clatter into the Welsh chieftain. Importantly, the green-hooded villager makes his charge into the Welsh spearman, depriving Flamduin of the support bonus he would otherwise have had. Unfortunately, the Saxon rolls a 1 on his charge roll, and fails to get his charge bonus. Seeing his lord in peril, Alhaverpuddin orders his spearmen to switch their attack from the all-important grain store to the combat on the road. The move, however, brings the first disaster for the Welsh raiders. A Saxon bowman, placed in the empty corral by Wulfhere, launches 2 arrows at Alhaverpuddin. The Welshman manages to avoid one, but the second strikes him down. Wyn, the Welsh bowman, tries to avenge the death of Alhaverpuddin by attempting to strike down Thegn Edgar. Although one shot finds its target, the Thegn's armor is sufficient to deflect the arrow. Edgar wipes his brow and gives thanks to the Lord for his lucky deliverance. Meanwhile, Wulfhere and Flamduin exchange blows with their trusty blades. With his charge bonus, Wulfhere comfortably lands a blow upon his opponent, but the Welshman's poor die roll sees him fail to return the strike. I suspect I made many errors in this first game of Pillage, and this one could have influenced the outcome of the combat. As a chieftain, Flamduin should, of course, have rolled 2 attack dice. Not 1. As things turned out, Flamduin's defense roll was more than enough to deflect the blow. The two giants remain locked in combat. Over at the vigorous donkey, Salome, the innkeeper, with her ever-faithful sister close behind, launches a furious charge against felling a puddle. Unfortunately, Sixtine, the pot man, cautiously remains safely behind the cover of the tavern yard fence, when his assistance could have made a big difference to the coming combat. There are advantages of not moving first in Pillage, and this combat illustrates this very well. With Felling locked in combat with Salome, his 2 spearmen were able to move in such a way as to give the Welsh the advantage. One moved up to support Felling, while the other charged into Delilah, breaking the all-important contact between the 2 sisters. Although Felling was able to land a blow upon the outraged Salome, a defense roll of 6 blocked it and the 2 remained in combat until the next turn. Delilah was not to be so blessed as her sister, however. Her to-hit roll of 4 was not enough to strike her opponent, but his roll of 4, plus his charge bonus was more than enough to strike the unarmored lady. To compound her misfortune, Delilah then rolled a defense roll of 2. Nowhere near enough to save her from the thrust of the deadly spear. Turn 3 ends with the sad demise of Delilah. She bravely fell defending the home and the people that she cherished. Or maybe not. Early medieval medicine was much more effective than has for a long time been believed. Could we possibly see more of the delightful Delilah in future episodes of the Wigford Chronicle? Turn 4 begins with yet another initiative roll win for the villagers. Having seen Delilah done away with by a balding Welsh spearman, Sixtine, equally lacking in hair, leapt from his position behind the wattle fence, to reap vengeance upon the lady's slayer. Sadly, his charge roll did not reflect his desire for revenge and he would have to fight without the benefit of a charge bonus. Luckily for Sixtine, the archer left behind by Wolf here has also witnessed the slaying of Delilah, and dashes headlong to join in the combat, just managing to scrape his own charge bonus. At this stage in proceedings, it appears more logical to follow each combat through to its conclusion, rather than report on the game in strict game turn sequence. So, we will continue with Sixtine's revenge before moving across the battlefield to resume the action there. In a flurry of spectacular dice rolling, all 3 participants score hits, demonstrating how fierce things can get when the joint owner of the only bar in town has been murdered. Anglo-Saxon luck holds out, and the unarmored villagers score yet another 6, to pass their defense roll. Delilah's slayer, however, suffers the way of Weird, and neither dice is enough to save him. Fate deserts those who commit such acts of vile depravity. As yet unaware of her sister's fate, Salome is still embroiled in her struggle against Felling and his supporting spearmen. Her 4, modified down to a 3, is not enough to harm the Welshman. But, Felling's 3 is just enough to score a hit. All now depends on Salome's defense roll. Will she follow her beloved sister to the realms of the dead? Sixtine and the archer helplessly watch on, with bated breath. Will she score the 6 she needs to survive? Sadly, she does not. Felling deals her a savage blow, and Salome falls to the precious earth she has sworn to defend. It looks very much as though the vigorous donkey will need a new landlady. Meanwhile, over in the center of the village, things are rapidly going very badly wrong for Flamduin and his surviving warriors. The group of 3 spearmen, having seen I'll have a puddin' shot down in the last turn, are in danger of being surrounded. And worse, Brother Bedwetter has been successfully charged by an angry villager, wielding a very big stick. During the shooting phase, the Welsh slinger is shot down by the Saxon archer in the empty corral. This is the archer's second success and he is rapidly becoming a legend in the village of Wigford. The same cannot be said of the Welsh archer, Wynap Prize, who miserably fails to hit one of the Saxon villagers, at virtually point-blank range. Flamduin's raid begins to take on the shape of a catastrophe, as Brother Bedwetter is felled by the villager with the big stick. Although the Welsh spearman outrolls the villager in the green hood, the Saxons continue to roll those all-important 6s, seemingly at will, and the hooded one survives to fight another round of combat. The combat between Flamduin and Wolf here continues with relentless ferocity. The Welsh chieftain stoically refuses to roll 2 combat dice, and even when Wolf here gains the upper hand, he fails to strike the decisive blow. And so, the slogging match continues into yet another turn. The fight between the villagers and the Welsh spearmen is developing into an all-out scrum, but the Welsh are consistently failing to make their numbers count. To their left, Edgar's villagers from the grain store are about to descend upon them, and the tables will be turned. Yet again, the Saxons win the initiative roll. With the advantage of moving first, they will be able to charge en masse into the remaining Welsh spearmen. Taking full advantage of their initiative, the villagers charge into the Welsh spearmen, with only one failing to achieve a charge bonus. Overwhelmed, they are cut down by the avenging villagers, until only one remains. The villager in the green hood, now supported by the villager with the big stick, continues to hold his own against the spearman. Until, inevitably, luck runs out for both of them. Exhausted, Wulfhere and Flamduin, even when he rolls 2 combat dice, still cannot inflict any damage upon each other. With his warband in tatters, the Welsh chieftain knows his venture has come to an unsuccessful conclusion, and he must surrender himself to the mercy of Edgar. The few raiders who remain unscathed, lose heart and flee from the village. Even Felling, the slayer of Salome, has had enough, and turns to flee the field of slaughter. And thus, the Welsh raid upon Wigford, on St. Boniface's Day, in the year of our Lord 1071, comes to an ignominious end. 7 of Flamduin's warriors lay dead upon the field of battle, and the rest have fled, to slink back into the hilly fastnesses of Wales. For the villagers of Wigford, the day will be a day to be remembered. Remembered for the glory of victory over the raiders, for the capture of the enemy chieftain, but, also, for the 4 of their number who were cut down in the defense of their homes. The survivors all know with great certainty that the story is not over. For, back across the border, in the dark lands of the Welsh, Flamduin has family, who will not rest until they rescue him and take him back unto the bosom of his brood. Thus ends the first ever game of Pillage, fought across our dining room table. Quite a lot of errors and omissions made during the game, but, hopefully, they will get ironed out during future encounters. Thank you for watching, and we hope you can join us for future videos in this series telling the story, as told in the faded crumbling pages of the Wigford Chronicles.